When it turned out a NOTUS reporter, NOTUS, that's News of the United States, right?
That's right.
Evan McMorris-Santoro, who was dialed in on the drama going out here in New York City, talked to my audience about the political backdrop of all this.
Well, I'll tell you, I co-author our daily newsletter at NOTUS, so I spend a lot of time in Washington politics, but I live here in New York.
Okay.
And right now, we're giving Washington a run for its money, I think, politically. Eric Adams, of course, has been embattled for a while, right, since these charges, federal charges, came down against him. But in recent days, as his administration, he sort of leaned in, he met with Trump, and, Trump's administration has pushed for these charges to be dropped. I saw earlier in the show, you were talking about that very strange court hearing today in which a judge said, I don't know if I should drop these charges. I'm going to figure this out, but it's, I don't like the look of this necessarily. That has led to a huge political backlash for Eric Adams. That now Eric Adams, who came to power kind of being this outsider voice, right? When he first was elected.
And pro-law enforcement.
That's right. And when he was first elected, there were Democrats who even said, maybe this is the kind of voice that we need in the future. Well, Democrats are kind of running away from him as quickly as possible now, the closer he gets to the president these days. I had a political person here in New York tell me the other day, it feels like critical mass for this for this mayor, that he may not be able to stick around in this job very much longer. But the political challenge here is what happens next, right? This is a very chaotic moment for the city. We've seen now Trump come in, try to end this congestion pricing program today, fighting with Governor Hochul. In the middle of it is this mayor.
And then resignations from the mayor's office.
That's right.
Top deputy mayors.
Tons of resignations. His supporters are turning on him. It's in the middle of this really sort of chaotic moment for the city. The mayor himself is no one really knows where he stands or what his future is going to be. And that's sort of what we're dealing with right now.
So you talk about being the newsletter writer for Washington. Yeah. Spend a lot of time focused on that. You wrote recently about someone who is not even a household name yet in Washington, though he may become one. Certainly not one nationwide. James Baird. Who is he?
That's right.
Why is he important?
We wrote up a story that my colleague Jasmine Wright wrote. And there's a lot of talk about what's different between MAGA 1.0 and MAGA 2.0. A big difference is this guy, James Baird, right? He is the president's man on Capitol Hill.
The legislative liaison is the title.
That's right. And the last time Trump was in power, there was a feeling that the city was kind of pushing back on Trump, right? That there was an establishment Republican Party that didn't like a lot of what he was doing. Obviously, Democrats didn't like it. And that there was an effort from Capitol Hill to maybe rein him in or control him and try to prevent some of the stuff that he wants to do. This time around, James Baird is a guy who came from some of that political establishment. He's in the White House now. And he says, my mandate is to do exactly what Trump wants to do. He's a very savvy and canny political operator, very well respected, even by those who are sort of never Trump Republicans who he used to work for. This story that Jasmine wrote is a remarkable one about just how different the Republican Party is now.
And his most recent posting on Capitol Hill was with J.D. Vance.
That's right.
Who is emerging as a very important legislative tactician, eyes and ears for the president.
Well, I would say that if you read this story, I wouldn't want to put these words in Jasmine's mouth, but the story is that J.D. Vance became a effective lawmaker in part because he had this guy on his team. Right. And so when Trump comes back into power and is like, we want to be more effective this time than we were last time legislatively, JD says, I got this guy. Let's bring him in. He's got the job now. And it does seem like we've seen with some of these things, for example, the cabinet, right? That was supposed to be a pretty tough road to hoe for Trump, some of these cabinet picks. So far really has not been. And people are saying if you look at the way he's handling the legislature this time around, the Congress this time around, obviously Republicans are more interested in coming his way, given what the election results were. But also he's got a different way of pushing his power around, a bit more savvy. And it's guys like this guy that's why that's happening.
Evan, I want to take two threads from this conversation and tie them together and bring them back here to New York. So we'll talk about the president's power. In the 2024 election, he did better in Manhattan than he did in 2020, about 7 percentage points better. Most of that was because Kamala Harris drastically underperformed Joe Biden. But still, what does that political low-level, small p potency, meaning a little bit better, one election to the next, mean for Eric Adams and this larger conversation about what his future may or might not be? Does it make any difference?
I think it does. It's the most fascinating part of this. When Trump came to the Bronx to do a speech, people thought it was a joke, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of reporters sort of went to the speech, and I spent the day walking around the rest of the Bronx to see what they were doing in response to it, right? And I met a lot of local political leaders who said, this is really serious. People are really gravitating towards Trump.
They're dialing in on this.
Young African-American voters, specifically men, they were talking about. The numbers bore a lot of that out, right? This working class shift away from Democrats towards Trump. Adams was the guy that was supposed to be the Democrats' sort of whisperer for that community. And so he was, I think, a guy that could have been leading this party out of the kind of problems that it's in right now. But now we're seeing him kind of flailing around a bit. Some of the things that's happened with Trump is that one of the things that Adams was very good at was not taking any hard partisan sides on issues. He would sort of navigate between them, especially in New York, where we have a very strong progressive movement. Then you sort of have this more conservative group that backed him up. Trump has pushed him towards one side.
Right.
And that has been a real problem for Adams.
And when you're flailing around, you sometimes look for a life ring, and that might be the politics of Donald Trump. Evan McMorris-Santoro, thank you very, very much.